Hi, so there's drawing from observation, and then there's drawing from imagination. And sometimes these two things seem completely separate because one thing is constructing and one thing is observing. And is there a way to marry these two ideas, to bridge these two ideas to have one complement the other or become one thing? So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Hi, my name is Luis Escobar. I'm a storyboard artist on the Simpsons television show. I've been working on the show for over 20 years now, and I'm here to try to empower you. So I've got this question. It's a very, very long conversation. It actually was a comment on my website, thedrawingwebsite.com. And it goes on for a little bit, and it's a two-part conversation. So I'm going to read both parts because the question was asked, I answered the question, and then a follow-up question was asked. I want to go over this because I think it's important, and I think this person's not the only one who has this question. So here we go. I have a question. It's a very hard question. Nobody ever told me the answer. No one artist or teacher. We have two principally different approaches to drawing. First is the approach where we should make a drawing of the existing scene. We stand at one single point of view, or we have a nice reference image. The light is set up. We draw with a variety of techniques such as sight, size, triangulation, or evaluating control points with a pencil, or using camera lucida, or simply by eye. And that is a very tight process, or maybe a loose live sketch, but we draw something that exists. We can stylize the elements, we can simplify them, and sometimes we can replace some of the details. But in overall, we are limited to the one point of view. Suddenly we realize that we can't draw what we've seen and draw it without reference or staging. The second approach is the illustration. We build a drawing above a sketch. We construct objects as the combination of simple 3D forms and 2D shapes, then make the outline, the shading, the coloring, and so on. The drawing is stylized, and usually it looks like a cartoon. Technical drawing with a cross section and curves and perspective is essentially the same, but it requires much more precision. But again, the principle is the same. We construct a drawing step by step from a simple shape or up to the stages where we're even other artists sometimes can't tell how the drawing was built. Because the final line art of the illustration looks very complex and detailed. I've seen a lot of artists who work perfectly from life, but they can't do the illustration. Their work is called fine art. They do exhibitions, they sell their paintings for thousands of dollars, but they are unable to draw a dragon or Santa. Also, there is a lot of really good illustrators who work perfectly from imagination. They have their distinctive style, but they make very poor life drawings. They use reference as their inspiration, but when they draw, it doesn't look like the object from reference image at a different angle or whatever different light. Instead, it's just a rough reminder of the same idea with similar texture, not more. Life drawing is a pain in the ass for these creative persons. They usually hate borders and boundary work. There's a lot of information for both matters, ranging from special ateliers who teach sight size methods of drawing, plastered casts, and up to Scott Roberts' book, How to Draw, or Neil Fontaine's very huge and affordable course, Discover How to Draw and Paint Comics. But nobody teaches how to build a bridge between two approaches. How could we fill the gap between drawing from life or reference and constructive drawing? I mean, how should I draw from life and analyze the reference material in order to learn the subject's form for creative drawings without reference? So that was the question. That was a very long question, and hopefully I didn't mess up too much. And when I read it, it's clear. So, this is my first response. Okay. Great question. I actually brought this topic up in my newsletter a long time ago. It was titled Observational Drawing versus Drawing from Your Head. And I'm going to put a link to that newsletter in the comments below. Although it doesn't quite address your question. So, turns out the animation industry has been making this bridge for years, although only some animation artists have become exceptionally good at both. Mostly, it's the concept artists like Richie Chavez and Marcelo Vignali and my pal Paul Wee. Our observational drawing and drawing from your imagination are two completely different disciplines, but they are completely complementary. In the animation industry, when you wanted to get hired as an animator, you had to show a portfolio full of live figure drawings. This is odd considering you're drawing cartoons all day long. So why did they have us do this? Because cartoons are caricatures of life. If you can't draw and understand what is real, how can you caricature it? So, how do you bridge both? By practicing and mastering both. You learn the observation skills of drawing from life, but you don't simply copy what you see. You interpret what you see using the formulas you use drawing from your imagination. But adjust your formulas to what you see. So you don't simply draw a thing the way you think and have made the formula of the way it should look like or the way you always draw it. But you draw what you actually see and try to understand what is happening there from your anatomy and construction studies. When you do that, you can take that back to your imaginative drawings, which gives you more shape and design ideas to work from. Reality gives you an infinitely more ideas than you could come up with just out of your head with the same old formula. You fight your style for the sake of greater understanding. Actually, let me aside. This is important because even I've seen this in comic book artists who study from life. It still looks like their style, and it's okay for it to look stylized-ish. It should look like their voice. It should look like their drawing. But there's something about reality sometimes that it forces you to see shapes slightly different, and what you want to do is you just want to capture what you observe rather than what you know in your head. And sometimes the style gets in the way of your observation. You still want to draw the way you draw it rather than what you see. It's very important to actually draw what you see, because that way it takes you out of your comfort zone. It makes you a little bit more, it forces you to grow. That's the best, and that's the best way for me to describe it. Okay. You try to have no style at all so you can have all the styles you want. The more you study reality, the better you understand it. The more you understand it, the better your imaginative drawings become. In the animation industry, we are asked to have no style because we have to be able to draw in all styles. The best way to do this is to work on being a great draftsman by studying reality at the same time studying how to draw from your imagination, so the formulas you learn can be applied to the real and the unreal. Okay, so that's what I wrote to him. And by the way, when I say no style, that doesn't necessarily mean that you will never ever have an actual style. If you want to make a living off of your personal drawings, you have to at least have some sort of voice, even if it just means that what you tend to say most often. through your art. He responded to my comment. Like after I answered his question, this is his response. So he started off with quoting me. So quoting me. So how does one bridge both? By practicing and mastering both skills. You learn the observation skills, drawing from life, but you don't simply copy what you see. You reinterpret what you see using the formulas you use drawing from your imagination. You draw what you actually see and try to understand what is happening there from your anatomy and construction studies. Unquote. I'm quoting myself there. Okay, so I am troubled by this. It seems simple in theory, and it works more or less with the still life, drawing through technique with simple or obvious constructive objects, or figure drawing, anatomy schemes for doing better proportions and reinterpreting the whole shading. Actually, it works well in class or studio. But the trouble starts when reality comes. Let's say I need a decent tree for a composition. We usually are unable to find the right tree, which looks good in 2D drawing. So you need to reinvent the structure of the tree, of the drawing. I can't apply any formula for such object because the formula doesn't exist, or maybe exists in someone else's brain. The world is full of volumetric objects that are perceived in motion. What we really know about such objects, complex objects, is a range of conclusions, observations that are made from a lot of different points of view with various weather and light conditions. And that is the image of the subject in the mind of a non-artist. We know the subject, but a lot of that information is tactile, sound, or whatever. But in order to depict the object, artists should establish the base forms. When we understand the form, we can add everything: texture, small details, color, shading, composition, storytelling, and so on. Any single point of view, any single reference image is lying to us. There is a lot of texture information, but it is extremely hard to understand the form. It seems that I can't get the formula I can't get the formula out of life. It is necessary to invent the formula which is believable, and for every new object there should be a new formula. How? As for the trees, the problem is how to interpret thousands of proportions, relationships between leaves, not making a mess from the foliage. Also, how to reorganize tree branches in 3D space. As for iguanas, elephants, snakeheads, or close-up views of foliage or flowers, the problem is that I can't simply break them down on the simple shape or construction lines, because objects in nature are not simple. A head of a fly is not made of spheres or cubes or cylinders. Curved surfaces are everywhere, and it is necessary to simplify them somehow. I don't need the anatomically correct fly. I am not going to be a botanist or a guru of mammals anatomy, but I need the idea of how to invent the formula based on what I see, because 3-4 simplified curved surfaces would be enough for each individual detail. I just have to know the approach, how to make approximate analysis of what I see. I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. The speech seems complicated. But the problem is really fundamental. How Leonardo was drawing a swirl of water or the background of his portraits, how Dürer was drawing rhinos, how sculptors invent the curls. In the end, this knowledge is a key to the so-called visual library. How to redesign, reinvent, interpret the form on a basis of life drawing, reference, images, and observation. What is the methodology of this process? Not only rearranging the figure drawing or technical drawing, but in overall. Any idea? Okay, so he just escalated the thing. Well, I think he overcomplicated it, and I even tell him so. So this is my answer to him. I understand what you're saying, but I think you might be overthinking and overcomplicating it. The answer is as simple and as difficult as the figure drawing problem. So here's the thing. The reason figure drawing is important to learn, to do well, is because in theory, a human figure is the most difficult thing to get right. The idea is if you can do the figure drawing well, then you can apply the same approach you take when drawing the figure to everything else. Gesture, rhythm, design, then apply three-dimensional form and structure to those preliminary elements. It's much easier than you might think, but it takes practice, and that is the missing element that puzzles most beginning artists. How does that artist think that way? How does he do that? Practice, lots of practice. It also helps to have a teacher who guides you on the steps you need to start when breaking things down and shows you how the skills you get from life drawing classes can be applied universally to everything else. But it requires a lot of making mistakes, and practicing to get these things right and to condition your brain to think that way until it becomes habitual. So what I'm actually talking about is when you're drawing from life, when you're breaking things down, you learn to simplify. That's part of the process. When you figure draw, you learn to break things down. When you go outside and sketch trees and shrubs and things like that, you practice breaking things down into those constructed shapes so it stops becoming such a puzzle. And the more you do it, the more visual vocabulary you create. You start establishing. You get the formulas, but it helps a lot to first borrow somebody else's formulas and then see how much of their formulas work for you. Okay. So that's kind of what I'm talking about when I say practice. I'm kind of vague about it here in this answer, but that's what I'm talking about. And here's another thing here. You may not need to be a botanist to be able to draw great animals, but if you were to ask an artist who is really good at drawing animals, he'd be able to draw one without any skin and show you how the muscles connect to the bones. It's easier if you know how to do that with a human being at first, because animal musculature works pretty much the same, and it's just in slightly varied spots. You may not want to study that stuff that deeply, but many of the best artists in the world do and are the best for that reason. Drawing is easy, but drawing great is not. It takes a lot of work and dedication. I've hit those walls where I'm trying to do something I've never done, and all my skills and knowledge fail me. No matter what I do, I can't pass the hump. I found that if I hit a bump like that, it's best if I simply ask a friend who is better than me or a teacher and ask them how they do it. Yes, and this is true. When you ask somebody to show you how they would approach the thing, it's much easier to go, okay, I see, let me give it a try. Do you see? Because they may have come up with a solution you had never thought of, and it really does help. And even if their solution doesn't help, at least watching them solve the problem does give you ideas of how you may be able to approach it. Having someone show you one way to approach a problem opens the floodgates in your head. You suddenly find that the problem was so easy to solve, but you just didn't see it. And then I wrote about this in the blog post one time, and I'll link to that too. I'll link to this time where I hit a roadblock and I asked a friend of mine to help me, and I was able to cross through the roadblock. So really, what it is when you're drawing from life and drawing from your imagination, when you study the forms, when you're studying formulas, when you're studying construction, anatomy, that sort of thing. And then you go to figure drawing. But here's the thing. Don't stop there. There's a lot of comic book artists who can't draw figure drawing, as was commented in this comment. I've seen comic book guys who do life studies, but their stuff still looks like the cartoony style that they tend to use. And part of the problem there is that they're not letting go, right? They're not letting go of what they know. They're not trying to learn from what they see. They're trying to shove what they know into what they see only. So you kind of have to let it go sometimes. However, it is smart to try to take what you already know and build onto that. So that is a good thing. So drawing from life, what it does is it gives you more tools because, like I said, it gives you variety. Drawing from your imagination, what it does is it helps you practice drawing from the ground up so that when you're looking at something from observation, you're able to break it down into the simple shapes that you need. And you know what's happening anatomically when you're drawing somebody. So it's not a big secret. Both of these things combined make you a better artist overall. So the reason why observational artists can't draw from their imagination is because they don't know any of the formulas. They're too busy copying what they see, which is good to a certain extent. But you still need to know the foundations of what you see. You need to know what it's made up of, what it's all about, how to turn forms in space, and all these other things. That's part of the reason why a lot of people can't draw from their imagination is they've never learned those formulas. They never learned their basic shapes. They never learned their how to put those basic shapes together to make compound forms. So that's part of the reason. On the other hand, you don't want to be so formulaic that everything that you draw always looks the same all the time. Now, that is a benefit for many artists. That's what they make a living from. And to be quite honest, that's what people tend to buy. They want to buy consistency. When they go to McDonald's, they want to get the same burger. They know what they're looking for. They know what so they tend to go to artists who keep drawing the same thing over and over because it's comforting. Because you know what they're going to get. And that is great. Fantastic. However, as an artist, variety is the spice of life. You often want to do other things. It's okay to play and push out of your comfort zone and to try different styles and try different ideas and things like that. And what ends up being consistent can be not necessarily just your shapes and designs and style, but what could be consistent is your voice, what you tend to say with your art. Then that's another form of consistency. Okay, so I'm going off on a tangent here, but that's what I would say about marrying and bridging both forms of drawing, both disciplines of drawing, observational drawing, and then drawing from your imagination. If you found this video valuable, I would like to encourage you to return value for value by becoming one of my patrons over on Patreon. Not only will you encourage me to continue making informative videos that are useful to you, but you get extra perks too. For only a small investment of $1 a month, you can get all new videos I create months before anyone else gets to see it. Also, if you have any questions you'd like me to answer as a patron, you get priority and I answer your questions first. On top of that, when you're a patron at any level, you become part of a raffle where I send original art via mail to the winner of that month. The higher your tier, the better your opportunity to win. Higher tier patrons also get access to any art I do in high-res JPEGs and also full access to PSD files to any work I do, including the PSD files of these videos. Currently, there's a huge backlog of downloadable files you can get, so right away you're going to get quite a lot of bang for your buck. And the more patrons I get, the better these videos will get. The more content I can produce. In other words, the more you benefit. Please consider becoming a patron. Thanks. The link to my Patreon is on the screen and in the description of this video. All right, so I hope this has been helpful to you. Keep on going and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.